Renewed warnings of a possible famine. Relief and commercial goods are not yet flowing into the country at the level needed. More than 3/4 of Yemen's population have become dependent on humanitarian assistance since fighting began in 2015. Well, joining us now from our central London newsroom is Kimberly Brown, Head of Humanitarian Policy at the British Red Cross. Kimberly, thanks for joining us. And it's obviously disappointing that in the short ceasefire that there's been, that the amount of aid getting into Yemen hasn't been enough to really dent the huge problems that were already existing in the country.
Thank you. Yes, these 14 aid agencies, including the British Red Cross, we've come together wanting to start off 2019 highlighting the extremely dire humanitarian situation in Yemen. It's the worst humanitarian crisis in the world, and we need to have the ability to have access in the country for aids and commercial goods to be able to move around more freely, because the Yemeni people are absolutely at a breaking point.
And I've heard in previous discussions on Yemen from colleagues in the aid sector that essentially Yemen grows very little or produces very little of its own food, so it's absolutely and heavily reliant on imports, and this is a huge part of the problem.
Absolutely. Yemen was already one of the poorest countries in the region before this conflict started 4 years ago. People have lost their jobs. They don't have salaries anymore. We have spoken to parents who are giving their children contaminated food and water. That's the only option that they have. We understand that 85,000 children have lost their lives due to hunger. And the UN is reporting that Yemen is being pushed to the brink and closer to a famine. That's why at the British Red Cross we have a Yemen crisis appeal that we're calling for support so that we can scale up our work, working with our other Red Cross partners inside Yemen to really reach the unimaginable amount of need that the Yemen people are facing.
Do you really have any hope that the warring parties will do anything to help protect civilians, given that those appeals, have pretty much fallen on deaf ears so far?
We were encouraged by some of the things that took place last year and some impact that the ceasefire has had, that different parties are coming to the table. But we call on all parties to respect international humanitarian law. Civilians need to be protected in this war. Civilian infrastructure needs to be protected. That includes schools and hospitals. A lasting political solution is absolutely needed because humanitarian aid will not alone save the Yemeni people.
The pictures, Kimberly, of starving infants, are truly heartbreaking. How difficult is it for aid agency staff on the ground at the moment to actually try to help the people there, given the limits on the flow of goods into the country?
It's an extremely difficult humanitarian environment to operate in. I had the opportunity to visit Yemen and see the amazing work of many agencies and of the Red Cross movement. But moving around is very difficult in the country. And in addition to what the Yemeni civilian population are facing, there's also many aid workers, Red Cross, Red Crescent volunteers who have lost their lives in this conflict. And so there's very much a psychological situation for people who are working professionally to respond in a humanitarian way, but who are living and breathing this conflict themselves and with their families on a daily basis.
Okay, Kimberly Brown from the Red Cross, thank you very much.
Thank you.